TBIH, as it's commonly known, is an organization for Howard County residents 55 and older. TBIH enriches the lives of county seniors to age in place and to remain active as long as possible. This includes educational activities like the Life Planning Series this fall. If you want to find out more about the bill, TBIH, you can talk to me after the Q&A or pick up a brochure on the table up front. Today we begin a 6-session TBIH Life Planning Series. Besides today's overview session, we will have sessions on legal, housing, aging in community, home care, and crisis navigating. We will meet every other Wednesday at 10 a.m. here at TBIH's office. You can register on TBIH's website or call the office. We hope you can join us. Today we'll cover and review the many areas that are involved in decisions for your post-retirement phase. Why do we need to plan this phase of our lives? Aren't we supposed to be retired and doing what we want to do? We hope you'll see the reason to start or re-examine different parts of this plan to help yourself, your future caregivers, and your loved ones through this phase. I want to take a moment to make you aware of a new term. Many of you have heard of aging in place. The new term is aging in community. Aging in community is a broader term. It emphasizes both keeping people at home and connecting through social networks and community-based supports and services so they can stay safe at home. Both terms will be used interchangeably during this series. So let's welcome today's speaker. Emily LeClerc is a licensed certified social worker clinical in Howard County's Office on Aging and Independence and manages Howard County's Maryland Access Point. Welcome, Emily.
Thanks. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for having me during this overview session. I'm pretty passionate about this topic. And a little bit about myself is I am the manager of Maryland Access Point, which is basically the information and assistance part of the Howard County Office on Aging and Independence. And so myself and my team of 7, we get all the calls coming through our office of individuals, family members, professional caregivers seeking out different resources, services, care options. And so we're often talking to individuals who are maybe hopefully planning in advance, which I love those individuals. I get excited to talk to people about that. But we often are getting people calling us when they're in the midst of a crisis. They didn't really think this would happen to them, or they didn't think they were going to need help, or look at these services, or think about moving. And so we're trying to do a lot of work to prevent that from happening, trying to get people to be more proactive. And I think the state of Maryland is trying to do the same thing. And somebody shared a great article today. I just kind of skimmed it real quick. And it's basically talking about how our long-term care system is expensive. And it does kind of take some planning and people to think about. And it's often going to fall on family members to help us as we're getting older. So this is just, I'm going to give you a quick overview of some things to think about. Hopefully you've done some of these. If you haven't, maybe this will encourage you to do that. And I'm also going to give you some tools and some resources to help you get organized and plan in advance. All right, so we plan for a lot of things. Like I actually sat down and thought to myself, how many things in our lifespan do we plan for? And so these were some of the things. We often plan for fun things, right? We plan for weddings, we plan for children, vacations. But planning for after retirement can kind of be feeling overwhelmed, daunting, and maybe some of the things we don't really necessarily want to think about. But I just wanted to acknowledge that there is a lot of planning we already do in our lives, so why not plan for the end of our life and after retirement, okay? So the term life planning got me thinking too, because in my field we use so many terms and acronyms. And I had to really think about, well, what does this mean after retirement? And so some of these are the terms in my field that you will often hear, and I will say today, but I feel like this is all life planning. Long-term care planning, you might hear that a lot. Planning for long-term care services in the future. Advanced care planning is used to acknowledge the importance of planning for end of life or what type of treatment you want. Retirement planning, I think everybody does that. You know, you're trying to figure out when I can retire, will I have enough to live on, when can I get my Social Security. Estate planning, coming down to the legal documents and things that you need. And then, like Michelle mentioned, aging in place, but aging in the community are all terms associated with life planning. But again, we gotta have fun with this, right? Life planning is not necessarily, like Michelle said, why do I have to do this? You know, I thought I was retired. I thought I was done making these decisions. But some of these are like what spoke to me was, you know, oftentimes we would just want to like put our head in the sand and not think about it, like it's not going to happen to me. But the statistics out there show that like most likely individuals over the age of 65 will need some type of assistance with some type of long-term care need. Whether that's help getting your trash out to the curb, or that's needing someone to go to the grocery store for you, or taking you to a medical appointment. Those are all examples of long-term care needs. I found this quote a lot about people don't plan to fail, they fail to plan. And it seems that there's two people being told that they've created this quote, but I think it's perfect. We don't plan to fail, but necessarily we don't think of everything that we might need or plan for, right? And then there's this great cartoonist, Roz, who has created a book about her planning with her parents. And I think this is just a funny way to think about it, is that we're all on this path of aging. And so unfortunately, we do need to kind of think about it, because there are things that we can do to be proactive to maybe prevent that crisis from happening. But I think before we move on about like what's to plan for and things to think about, is to try to think about yourself and like what type of decision maker you are, because that'll help you move forward, right? So this is the top 4 decision makers that they did research on of individuals who are looking at long-term care planning. They find some people are advanced planners. Anybody in this room advanced planners? Oh, all right, yeah. Like these are individuals that, you know, will start, like I'm gonna take a vacation. I'm going on vacation. I'm going on vacation on Friday. Have I packed? No. So I would say I'm kind of the reluctant person. I will pack probably Thursday night. But in my group of friends, we have a text going on and people have already packed, like last weekend. I would say they are the example of advanced planners. Like they are planning, they already have their checklist, they know what they're bringing. Then there's going to be a type of planner called wake-up call. There could be people in my group who will plan or pack that morning of. I'm not going to be that person. But wake-up call are individuals who there's a reason that now they are forced to make some type of decision or plan. Sometimes in my field, when we get calls from family members or individuals, the wake-up call is some type of medical change or status. They went to the hospital. Now what? What are we going to do? And if they haven't made any plans, that's kind of like the wake-up call. Reluctant consenters. Anybody in that room want to acknowledge if they're reluctant? I think as humans, we can be reluctant oftentimes when we don't want to deal with fun things or think about things that we hope that will never happen to us, right? And so that makes kind of all of us reluctant in some sense if that prevents us from planning. But just wanted to mention that. And then it's the scramblers, the last minute individuals who are like, oh my gosh, I didn't do this, or I didn't plan for the vacation, I better get everything ready all at once. The reason why I think it's important to acknowledge what type of decision maker you are, because that could maybe help you know what your barriers are moving forward or trying to get some planning done. All right, so why is it important to plan for life planning and future needs after retirement? Well, one, it's going to save you some time, energy, money. Everybody likes to save money, right? So why wouldn't we want to try to think about, like, if I needed help in my home or if I want to age in place, how will I do that? Because it ultimately, in the long run, will save you that energy, that time, and hopefully prevent a crisis. It will basically help give you the control to manage the affairs that you want, what you want. If you don't manage it and say there comes a time where you didn't do any planning or you didn't write anything down or share your wishes with your family members and then you became not capable, then your family wouldn't know and they're going to do what they think you want. But if you start writing these things down and organizing, then you can tell them in advance. And certainly by doing that, it's going to guide them in what your wishes are or what your decisions wish that you would like. And then, like I said, breaking the pattern of going from a crisis. Because let me tell you, when you're in the midst of a crisis or trying to make quick decisions, oftentimes it's not the best decisions and it's very stressful for everyone. You, your family, your friends, to try to figure out what the plan should be or the next step. Just going to touch a little bit about things to plan for. I mean, part of this whole series is you're going to go into more details about some of these topics, but I just want to mention a little bit about each of these. These are the 5 main areas I would suggest that people really should think about and plan for, organize, get things together, and talk about it with their friends, family, care plan team. All right, so let's break it down. So health is definitely an area for us to think about because as we're aging, you know, I'm turning 50 next month and next year. And, you know, I'm having a lot of changes. I was just having a hot flash over there. And, you know, we all need to be aware of our medical conditions and our history because that will make better informed decisions about what type of care or options I might need in the future. An example might be if you are diagnosed with a chronic health condition like Parkinson's, or if you're recently diagnosed with dementia, these are diseases that will change over time. And over time, your needs might change and you might need different supports or services. And so it's just important to know what your medical diagnoses are so it can help you plan. It's really important to make sure that you have your healthcare information in an important place and share that location with your family members in case there's ever a medical emergency and they can get it, they know, they can take it to the hospital, they can tell the individuals at the hospital like what's going on with you. I encourage people to keep a list of their doctors and medications. Keep that updated however you want to do it. I know some people, there's apps on your phone. Some people keep a list on the refrigerator. As long as you're keeping it up, sharing it with who you need to involve, it's really important. We'll talk a little bit more about advanced directive forms and the MOLS form, which is the medical order for life-sustaining treatment form for Maryland, and I'll mention that. And then planning for emergency. We've been getting a lot more calls of people trying to plan for emergencies. You know, like, what should I do? And this is a perfect example. I'll give you my example. Recently, my mom wasn't answering the phone. She lives here in Columbia. She lives in a 55-plus community. She wasn't answering the phone. I kept calling her. She wasn't answering. So, of course, I'm like, ooh, you know, I guess I'm driving over. I'm leaving messages. So I drive, and her storm door was locked. I have a key to her house, but she locked her storm door, and she does that, you know, she's a single person living alone, so that's protection for her. And I thought, well, how would I get in here if there was true an emergency, you know? And luckily, as I'm banging on her door, she came and she was fine. Basically, her phone just wasn't working for some reason, and all was good. But planning for an emergency, like that got me going, like, whoa, if you're gonna keep this door locked, I need a key in case there's an emergency. These are just things that we necessarily don't think about until there's like a reason to think about it. All right. So a lot of what I do in my job is talk to people about care options. You know, if you ever needed assistance or care, whether that's care in your home or care in a facility, it's really important to think about what that looks like for you. You know, everyone's different. We all have different preferences and wishes. And so what, you know, for me might not work for somebody else. So where do you want to get your medical care? I mean, luckily here in Maryland, we're very fortunate to have great medical care, but sometimes I have people talking about moving. And when they talk about moving to like Florida or someplace warm, you know, I'm jealous, but the first thing I say to them is there going to be a hospital and do you have good medical care at that location? And sometimes they're surprised by that. And I'm like, because most likely as you're getting older, you're going to need some type of medical care. And I'm sorry, I would want to know if I have good doctors and a good hospital and how convenient it is to get to those locations. An example would be like my mother's from Pennsylvania. And at one point, she thought she would retire to Pennsylvania. And I thought, the first thing I said, and where she's from is western part of Pennsylvania, and things are far away. I'm like, how are you going to get to the hospital? How are you going to get to medical appointments? So think about your medical care, what you want, where it is. When you do need some type of care or assistance, what would that look like? Would it be aging in your home in the community? Would it be maybe downsizing, retiring to a retirement community? And if you did need more care, would you want to move to an assisted living? Or could you bring care into your home? You know, sometimes we don't think about who you want to involve or not involved, you know, especially if you have a larger family. Maybe you don't want everybody involved, and so that's okay. I think it's important to communicate that to your family so that they realize who you want to do what. Because I think that it will definitely help with family dynamics and if there's multiple children to keep everybody knowing that's what mom or dad wants. Aging in place takes planning. I think our office, and I know majority of people want to age in the community, age in place, and we think that's great. Because ultimately, financially, that might be the most affordable option, right? But it does take planning. It takes a lot of planning of thinking about, is your current environment accessible, and could you make changes to that environment? It takes planning to know, like if you can no longer drive, how would you get to your important appointments, or the grocery store, the bank? It takes, you know, the smallest things, which we don't think about, and I get calls about, is I can't take my trash can down to the curb or get my mail. That takes planning, like thinking about, like, could a neighbor do that for me? Could a friend drop by once a week and do that for me? So aging in place, thinking about, like, if I did need to hire in-home care, what agency would I choose? Or would I want that agency to come into my home? You know, having a stranger or having a person like that in the beginning can be very like, oh, I don't know about this because I'm not used to having that person come into my home and know my routine and things. So again, can't say enough about aging in place or aging in the community does take some type of planning. And then knowing and selecting the best life living arrangements, and I'm going to provide a little bit more some resources about that. I know it's not the best that you can see in here, but in our resource guide, if you have a guide already, if you pick one up, there is, the chart is located in here. And this is just our way, our office's way of trying to provide some type of context as far as all the different care options that is available, the levels of care, and the cost. And so I really strongly encourage you to just take a look to give you an idea of how these cares, the levels and the cost, because boy, in this article, if you haven't read it, again, I just skimmed it, they gave you some of the cost of all the care, and I would say it's dead on as far as what some of these costs cost. And I can share more about that. But I think in some of your other sessions, you're going to be talking about like housing options, in-home care, so I'm sure those speakers will go over the cost. All right. So financially, I'm not a financial planner. I'm a social worker. I don't like money, but unfortunately when it comes to retirement and a lot of these things is it takes money, it takes finances. And so one is I just encourage people to, again, think about where their finances are, create a list so if something would happen to you, your family, your friends would know. But most importantly, I'm going to tell you, be aware of your financial situation. So I do a lot of the senior tax credit applications. It's senior tax credit season. And boy, I never knew I was going to need to know so much about dividends and capital gains and annuities. And a lot of times I find people don't know what they have. They think by me giving me their tax paperwork, I'm going to know, and I'm not going to know oftentimes what's in their accounts, like what they have as far as assets go. So it's really important for you to get a sense about your financial situation. What's your income? What are those sources? What is your assets? What accounts you have? How much it worth? The only reason I'm suggesting that is because if you do need some care or you need to make some improvements to your home, if you're going to age in place, you need to know how you're going to pay for it. And when it comes to finances, a lot of the federal, state, county programs have income or asset guidelines. And so before, like MAP, our team can make referrals, we need to ask about income and assets. And we need to make sure that you meet the guidelines. Same with the tax credit programs. I need to make sure that you meet the guidelines before we apply for the programs. And then the other thing is learn about the cost of these services. I find when we talk to individuals, they don't realize how much care has gone up. It has gone up. This is my 19th year with the county of doing this work, and I know inflation, right? Everything goes up, but I will say since COVID, particularly with in-home care services, that service has gone up, the hourly rate, and it does surprise and take people back. And so it's really important for us to all be aware of what these services are going to cost, so we know how we're going to pay for it if and when we need it. And I'm in the same boat. My husband's grandmother is 99, and she lived independently with a little bit of in-home care and up until 97, 98. And then in 98, she had a medical emergency, and she could no longer go back to her senior apartment, and we moved her into an assisted living. And, I'm sure she didn't think she was going to live until 99, but she is. And now she's been in the assisted living for a year, and she's gone through all her assets. And as a family, we are coming to the point of, come January, how are we going to pay the difference? Because her income, which is Social Security, and luckily we got her VA benefits, doesn't cover the entire cost of the assisted living. We are in the hole of $3,000 a month. And she's not in a large, fancy assisted living. She's in one of the smaller ones in Anne Arundel County. And, I told our family that we are going to have to talk about this. Luckily she's got lots of children. And we're going to have to figure out, who can maybe supplement some money each month to kind of supplement the cost of this assisted living. Because that's where we're at. And it's really because a lot of the programs through the state have wait lists. And so let's be honest, at 99, I'm not sure how quickly she'll be able to get that financial assistance from one of those programs. So we're going to have to do something in the meantime. But these are all things I don't think people think about. I don't want to think about it. But my family's in the midst of it. And so that's why, again, knowing what services cost, knowing your financial situation. Legal, I know one session we'll talk about legal and the importance. Again, it's just important to determine what legal documents you need for your situation. Again, not one size fits all. At least appoint some people to make decisions for you when you can no longer do it, and have those documents made out. And if you make those documents, make sure you put it in a place and tell people where they are so they know where to get it. And if you make out a power of attorney or healthcare agent, tell that person, because they should know, and talk about like what you would want done or not done. End of life or advanced care planning, the terms keep changing out there. I think end of life, we always think about funeral arrangements and like what we want or what kind of funeral or burial we want, but there's so much more. Talking about like advanced care planning, like end of life decisions, and educating yourself about like hospice and palliative care. Making as much personal arrangements that you can to lessen the stress or burden on your care team. And then if you have any important documents or, things that you want to give away, like document that and having that in an important place. The two tools I can give you is the Maryland Mulch website. It has the Maryland Order of Life-Sustaining Treatments paperwork, and they have great resources on that website. You get the form. You do have to do that form with a physician. And basically that indicates like if you wanted CPR or not CPR and other things. Maryland Advanced Directive Forms, if you haven't already done it, please do it. I've done it. I mean, you never know. And I did bring copies of those forms with me today. And you don't need an attorney, just need 2 people to witness that when you sign it. Copy is there for the Maryland. There is another product out there, 5 Wishes. Oftentimes our office has those. I don't have any English ones right now. But basically it goes into a lot more details like what you would want done at the end of your life. Everything from do you want music, who to be involved. It just provides a lot more detail and you can put that in writing. And in Maryland you can have the 5 Wishes. I think I'm going to come back to that at the end because that's always fun. All right, so I talked a little bit. I'm just giving you an overview because you're going to have a lot more details as you move forward in this series. So now what? What could I do today? And so these are just some practical things. One, you did it. You came to this session, right? I'm getting you going, thinking about what you have already done, maybe what you could do or do better with, right? Some things to help you with your education would be our office. I'm going to plug the Office on Aging. Maryland Access Point, we do programs throughout the year at the different 50+ centers on all different types of programs for long-term care. What is assisted living? What transportation options are available? How to plan for long-term care needs? In-home care versus home health care? Getting your ducks in a row, which is kind of like this presentation. Please attend. We love being out there and letting people know what's available. And you can find that list, our current list, on our website. Other great websites to check out is the Healthcare Quality, Maryland Healthcare Quality. Over COVID, they revamped their website and they have lots of great tools. They have fact sheets on all different types of care options. So it gives you really easy information to know what assisted living is, what is hospice, what is in-home care. The other great thing about their website is you can compare providers in our area. So they have all the assisted livings in Maryland located on there. You can put your zip code, you can compare a few at a time, you can kind of get some basic information on that. They also created a long-term care toolkit, which I brought copies of, and it's just their way of trying to get people to think and plan for future needs. So I highly recommend checking out their website. They have great information. And then Medicare.gov, I always give out that information because that's a great place to find providers. Home health providers, providers that are under the medical equipment benefit of Medicare, also skilled nursing facilities. They have a great section on comparing those facilities. And so these are just websites that you can learn more, but also like go, yeah, you know what? I think I want to go visit that facility, or I want to compare these two and visit both. I might not need it today, but I might need assisted living tomorrow. At least you would already have a sense about like which option or which place you might like. And then I do encourage people to ask friends and family, and that's one of the benefits of the village, is that you guys are keeping each other informed too. Because word of mouth is huge in a lot of these industries. In-home care, huge industry. So many providers out there. It's overwhelming. And the first thing I say is ask friends, family, is there an agency they're using and they like, or a person they're using? I mean, that's great. Word of mouth is huge. The only thing I'm going to say, it's one size doesn't always fit all. You know, an example I could give was somebody called our office and their friend moved into one of the retirement communities. And they wanted to move in. They were like, yeah, I'm going to move in. And then after talking with them, I thought, I don't see how financially you can afford it in the long run. Sure, a lot of times we can afford retirement communities in the short run, but I'm always trying to think about like the long run. We're all aging longer. My husband's grandmother, for example, is that I get it. Your friend is moving here, your friend's doing that, but really you do have to look at your own situation too to see if that's the best fit for you. So just think about that. The more you know. Do you remember that series in NBC? They always had those commercials like, the more you know, and they always had like a 2-minute spiel. So ways for you to also learn more is our resource guide, which I brought copies. Other things that I think is great is COGS, the Coalition for Geriatric Services in Maryland or Howard County. They have a list of their directors and providers in here. You can always pick that up. Positive Aging's source book. They put out this is all of Maryland, not Howard County, but I will say I love their little articles about like what is in-home care and senior movers. What is a senior mover or life care case manager? I mean, they're really easy to understand and learn more about. And then after the little article, they provide a list of the providers. And so these are just ways for you to learn more about what's available in our community. I really encourage people to visit facilities. If you're looking at retirement communities, 55 plus communities, or thinking about assisted living in the future, visit some. They're not all the same. Compare, get an idea of what it's like. One is, it's not, I think there's a lot of bad information. We often think about, like, so my grandmother was in a nursing home in the 80s. Well, a lot has changed from the 80s. I'm thinking of when I was visiting her as a kid, and now of what they look like and how they are. And back then, she would have been in an assisted living, not in a nursing home. So, our industry has been changing, and so it's important, what you think assisted living is or what a nursing home is, go visit some, and then they'll give you a better perspective. Again, just some other places to compare, You never know. It might be a better option for you, and you can compare the two. Start planning for the cost. I'm not sure how much more planning you can do if you're retired, but I think the best planning is knowing what the costs are for these services. So you have an idea of later on, if you need in-home care, you're not already like, whoa, that's how much it costs. Or you already called our office because we shared that maybe some of our programs have wait lists. Or we can give you the guidelines to our programs. And while I'm talking about that, in our resource guide, the first couple pages, we have a list of all the benefit programs for Maryland, county, and state, and we've broken up into category. I mean, the biggest thing is if you're living out in the community and you haven't checked out the tax credits, please do. It's not too late. October 1st is the deadline. You might qualify, and we shared the guidelines. But then we also have guidelines in here for our in-home care programs and programs to help with the cost of assisted living. So I'll just give you an idea of like what the income and asset guidelines are. Anytime, Maryland Access Point MAP, we're available to screen you for those programs. Just call us. We will need to know what your income or assets are, and we can certainly help you apply for those programs. Some other great places like AARP, you can go on there. They have a long-term care cost calculator. And boy, in the article, I'll just keep it up here, they did give you an idea of what some of the long-term care costs are in not necessarily our area. I think they were just using the United States, but I'd say that's pretty dead on. Okay, create a plan and get organized. I like creating plans and lists and things. That's just me and my personality. But some people don't like to do that, so here's some tools to get you started. Maryland Long-Term Care Toolkit, I have it, take it with you. They have some worksheets in there for you. NIH has some great worksheets and checklists for advanced care planning. And then they also have some great information about aging in place and checklist. I'm going to share my box of goodies because there's all different ways that you can plan. It doesn't have to be so crazy. Well, one of the things that we created is our vital records. It's pretty simple. It's not going to do everything, but it can get you started. A place where you can put some important documents in or location for those documents. And it gives you some checklists. So you could take this or encourage a friend or family to do this. But other things that are out there. Notebooks. Just get a regular notebook. Get some dividers, some plastic things. I have a friend's mother who lives in Florida, and she has this huge notebook that she has created for her long-term care plan, which is great. I'm like secretly want to see it. Like, can you tell your mom to bring it? I want to see it. What I put in here is there is something out there called the Knox box. You might have seen it. I did buy it. I bought just the paperwork to create my own. I mean, this is basically what the Knox box is. They give you the worksheets where you put all your information, you put it in dividers, and if you wanted to see what it would look like, it's all here in this folder, this binder. But again, you don't need to buy the Knox box, but it gives you some ideas. For my clients who live in the community, oftentimes we encourage them to get something like this. Sometimes I work with individuals that have more limited resources or income, so they don't need a lot of different planning things. Like, they don't have a car, they don't have a house, they don't need something a lot. But this is a great way to put some material in here, like your advanced directives, your list of medications, maybe some of your bank statements, so if something would happen, family members could easily find something. Another thing, this is something that actually I use in my job, so I just brought one. I use it for various reasons in my job, but there's 12 folders. Again, you can put labels on it, you can make something. Actually, I have one for my mail. Instead of going to my filing cabinet every single time I get mail, I have the basic mail and I just put it in there. And then at the end of the year it's big, and then I file it all away. but something really simple, very affordable, and doesn't have to be expensive. And then there's all these fun books out there on Amazon, you know. I'm Dead, Now What, Peace of Mind Planner. I mean, I've looked through it, and again, there are just ways for you to put important information in it. However fun way you want to do it, I can't strongly encourage you enough. I mean, my mom's way is nothing exciting. She basically has an old briefcase under her bed, and she keeps been putting important documents and things for me to know. But hey, you know what? I know where it is, and that's part of the thing, is telling people that, hey, I filled out this book and it's here. Or better yet, go through the book or go through the binder or go through the thing with them so that everyone's on the same page in case they need to know. But those are just examples. Certainly there's lots of books out there. I mean, here's an example, is the Complete Elder Care Planner. They have some worksheets and things in here. So if you're a reader, you can do something like this, or you can do something more simple, which is more list, or you can do your own thing. But, you know, anything that you can do is a start, and I'm telling you, it's going to be such a gift to whoever is going to help you later, so that they're not stressing, or they can know what you would want done if there was an emergency. Any questions about some of these? I'm going to leave these up here. Yeah.
Yeah, more of a comment.
We hope you find this helpful. We have staff at each of the 50+ centers. You can meet with them in person at any time. We do prefer appointments. We do something what we call options counseling. Options counseling is a term statewide in Maryland where we will sit down with individuals and or their families together and just talk about like future plans, the what ifs. If you're going to age in place, what would that look like, and what services might be available, or how you can make your home accessible, or in-home care options, the cost, how to find providers, things to think about, questions to ask. And then certainly going over any of the housing options. That's all what options counseling is. We want you to know your options so you can make the best informed decision about your situation. Our service is free, and you can do what you want with our options in our counseling session. There is no forcing any service upon anybody. It's just having a conversation. I'm going to give plug for SHIP. I say Matt does everything but Medicare and insurance, and that's really where SHIP comes, the State Health Insurance Assistance Program. Open enrollment's coming up soon, like in October. They're going to be having a lot of appointments ready for that. Please call them. It's really your time to know you're in the best plans for you. Again, not one size fits all. Just because your friend has this plan doesn't mean it's the best plan. Call SHIP and they can help you with those Medicare and supplemental options. And then we'll leave with that. That's all the upcoming series. And then questions, because